In this video, I'm going to show you how you can create this mobile menu. There we have the mobile menu. This is the mobile menu horizontally, just to show that it scrolls nicely. Let's go back to the default view. So we have this mobile menu. We have the main items, which have this font awesome icon. And then the submenu items, we've included a thumbnail of the products. Let's close that. So open, close. And to make that happen, what we do then, there are a couple of things that we need to do, because by default, the menu as it works here won't work using WP bottom. So there are a couple of tweaks that we need to make. And then also when it comes to adding the menu icons and thumbnails, we also need a second plugin for that. So the menu image is the plugin that we're going to use then for the icons and the thumbnails for the individual menu items. So that is this menu image icons made easy. Menu image is the name of the plugin. That's the icon. And then of course for the menu across the bottom of the page, we're going to use the WP bottom menu. And that is the menu that looks like this. So we're going to use a combination of the two plugins then to create that menu. So the first thing that we've done then is we've installed both plugins and both are active. So what we'll look at first then is the menu image. Now what happens when you install the menu image and you then go over and you look at a menu, you'll see that you now have this menu image icon appear when you hover. And you also have this option then if you open up the menu item to add image or icon. So you can access the menu options in either way. So if we have a look at the top menu structure, and I'm going to go over here to menu image, you will see that you have an option when it loads. The first thing is the title position. Do you want the title position hide, above, below, before, or after the icon? So we're going to go for after the icon. So we have the icon in the front and then the name, and we're not going to use dash icons. We're going to go with font awesome. We're going to go with solid. And then if we look at the shop icon that we've used, so if we have a look over here, you'll see that in this top menu here, I used that shop icon. So you will then see that it's the same menu now that we're pulling through to the shop page. So when you want to add an icon to your menu, it's really simple. Simply scroll down until you see the icon that you want to use. So at the moment, we're using this icon for the shop. So I'm just going to show you what happens if I change that. And I go with that icon and I save the changes, head over to the website, refresh the page. And now you'll see that when I look at the main menu icon, we have the shop. And if I was to access the main menu item from the footer, you will see that we also have that shop icon. So the same menu is being pulled through in this case for both mobile menus. You can of course create a custom menu that only displays then with the footer menu. So you can create something completely unique. You don't have to use the main menu. The reason I'm using the main menu is just to show how the main menu would work, but then also to show how to get the scrolling effect. So I'm going to just close that, and then I'm going to go back and let's go back to the original icon, which is this one, and I'm going to select that, save. You'll see that the icon has changed there, and now when I go to the website and I refresh, then you'll see that in the main menu at the top we have the shop, and if we have a look at the footer bar at the bottom, in the bottom menu, you'll see now that that icon is also updated. So the updates are very quick, instant, which is great. If we have a look then at the way to add a thumbnail, and the thumbnails were added to the product categories. To do that, when we load up, you'll see instead of using the icon option, we use the image option. So if in this case we're looking at the music category, let's choose one where we have a bit more choice. So if we have a look at clothing, for example, at the moment we've chosen this image here with the red shirt. So if we go and have a look at that menu item, you'll see that clothing has the red shirt. I'm going to head over here, remove that, and then I'm going to set image. I go into my library as normal, my media library. I'm going to select that item with 3 items of clothing. the item was saved successfully. Head over to the website, refresh, pull up that menu, and now you'll see that the clothing icon has changed. If I wanted to change the size, then here where we have this image size, if I wanted to make it something bigger, simply save the changes, head over to the website, refresh, and now you'll see that there's a bigger icon for clothing. In this case, though, we want to keep them all the same size, and I prefer the medium size. So we'll just drop that back down to the 36 by 36, save the changes, head over to the website, refresh, and you'll see now that the icons are all the same size. So that's pretty much then how you can add the icons to the menu items. So that's using the menu icon plugin, and you then do that in the menu section of the website. So that's pretty much what we did to add the icons. When it came to the WP bottom menu, and to access that, you can go to the standard WordPress customize menu, and when you open up the menu, you'll see this option. So simply select the WP bottom menu, and then you can see the menu items. And to allocate a menu to the custom menu position, so what you do is you set that to custom menu. What I've done is if I go into the menus in WordPress, you will see that I only have the one menu and it says currently set to WP bottom menu. So if you had 5 or 6 menus, the menu allocated to WP bottom menu would have that in brackets on the page. So very easy to find. Alternatively, if you're in the menu section here of WordPress and you scroll down, you'll see there's a display location, and if the menu is allocated to the bottom WP bottom menu, it'll have a tick in. So that's what we have. Now, as I said, the default viewing of the menu does not look like that. So just to show you what I mean, I'm going to head over here to the CSS, and I'm going to comment out all the additional CSS that was added, and then you'll get an idea. So if we have a look at the default layout with the icons added, this is pretty close to what you would see on the website. So if I was to publish that, head over and refresh and open up the menu, this is what you're going to see on your website. And obviously that's not what you want. So there are a couple of things that we can do then to make that look a little bit better. And to understand what to do, let's just look at how the menu is structured. So if we right click and go to inspect, you'll see that we have the WP bottom nav wrapper, and it's on active. And what that tells us essentially then is that if I go into the bottom nav and I was to go into the customize section, scroll down, and I was to change the menu background color, so I'll just change it to anything, and we then have a look, you'll see that the color that we have across the menu at the bottom now is the same color that's used for the menu background of the menu that pops up. So that's just as a reference, but we're going to leave that in the default of white because that works the best for us. The other thing that you'll notice in that very first selector then is you have this place item center, and you also have this text align center. So if we were to change the text alignment in that first selector and we align it to the left, already you can see we have a better structure on the page, and that is because we are now using the width of this ordered list. So just to show you, if I make that center again, so we have it on center, and you'll see that we have the UL selector for the ordered list, and that's everything fits in the center of that. So the first selector that we need to change is to move that to left, and then we have that looking good. And the second thing that we would change then is we would head over to this UL selector that wraps around the whole menu, and we're going to change the width of that. So let's change the width and make that 100%. And now you'll see that the menu stretches all the way across. And the nice thing now is that everything is nicely aligned on the left-hand side. So that's the first step that we'll take then in creating that menu alignment. The next thing that we'd like to do is make sure that when we click on an item, we don't have to click on the word or on the menu items precisely. We'd like to be able to click on that item anywhere to the right, and especially on mobile, if this was in your phone in one hand, you'd be tapping over here, and you'd also want some kind of a border to show which menu item it is. So let's address that. So to look at the individual menu items, we go to the LI selector, and you'll see the first one includes the main menu and submenus, and then it's all the individual items. If we select that, you'll see that selector, you'll see that what comes up here is this WP WordPress bottom menu dash nav dash items, and then li colon not and colon last child. So it means apply the style to all the items, but not the last one. So the great news about that now is that if we add a border, so I'm going to go, let's just do a bottom border. So border dash bottom, we'll have a 1px solid, and let's make it a light gray. So now we've added a selector line, a bottom border between each of the items, but you'll see that it's not correctly aligned, and I still can't click anywhere between those borders now to select an item. So let's address that next. So in order to make that work, if I look at the selector, you'll notice that it has a margin at the bottom. That is that orange bar, and that's creating the space between the items, but that's not the spacing we want. So the first thing we're going to do then is this margin bottom, we are going to set to 0. We don't want the margin bottom, and that's starting to look a little bit better. And what we'll do is we'll add a padding of 15 pixels. Now, if we add the padding of 15 pixels here, we're actually adding it to the LI selector, which is the list selector here, but we're not actually increasing the area for clicking. And we want to increase the area here for clicking. So we're not going to add the padding there. What we're going to do is go straight to the item where we click, which is this href selector, and we're going to add the padding to that particular element. So if we click on that, we'll see that we get this selector, and we'll add the padding there. So we've got the padding of 15 pixels. So you'll see that the padding was added. That's the green. And now what we want to do is also increase the width to 100%. So it fills that space and I can click anywhere. Now we've added those items, but you'll see that they haven't been applied correctly. In order to have them work, we need to add display and block. The moment we add display block, you'll see that the spacing is applied, and now you'll notice that if we look at the selector, you'll see that the ahref tag now is applied all the way across, and was I to select any of those items to the right in that open space, the selector would work. So that's looking great, and I think we'll leave it at that. What you'll also notice is that when you go from a main menu item to a sub-menu item, there isn't a line. And you'll notice that there, and you'll notice that with clothing, and then at the end of clothing, there's a line, and then decor. So that just indicates to you where the menu starts and then where it ends. So here you can see that music has ended, clothing is still open, and clothing ends here. So that's just a way of showing the menu grouping. The other thing that we'd probably want to get rid of are these bullet points. They are a little bit distracting. So to do that, we'll go back up here to the UL wrap for that ordered list. And what we'll do here is we'll just say list style, and we'll change that to none. And list style type. Maybe what we can do is none, and on the li, let's just go list style none. So now we've removed the list style, and I'm not sure why those two items have held on to the list style. Let's just have a look. So UL, we have list style of none, list style type none. And then on the individual LI items, we have a list style of none. Let's just have a look at that. And on that particular item, and the list style is also set to none. So that's really strange to see. We'll just carry on though for now. What I'm going to do though is also then show you how to style this submenu element here, just to indicate that it's separate to the first level menu item. So if I go to the, what I could have a look at doing here is in the UR class submenu, is also add a list style there of none. So there we can see the list style of square. So I'm going to, in the submenu then, list style none, and that removes those. So we've done it now at the submenu item level and at the submenu. So we have the submenu here where we've applied the class, and here for some reason the first submenu item wasn't enough. We've applied it again in the second level, and that has worked. Next thing we're going to do is just add some background color here. So if I go to the first submenu selector here, and I'm going to add a background color. So let's just go background, and I'm going to give it a gray. So I'm going to give it a slightly dark gray, and that then highlights the entire area. And then I'd like to style the individual items. So for that, I select the LI selector, and then what I'm going to do now, you'll see here that the selector there, we only want it for the sub menu. We don't want it for the normal menu items as well. So what we need to do then is select the wrap, and then we'll do a space and li, and then what we will do is a background, and we want to go with the background of F7, and that's a little bit lighter, and then you can actually see the separating line. So there we've now isolated just the submenu ally item. So that's starting to look a little bit better. And the next thing that we'd like to do now is address this closing button, because the closing button at the moment, if I was to click on that, it would actually not close the menu. And the reason for that is that it's the layering, it's not on top of, it's on the same layer as the menu item. So when I click on it, it'll actually just select a menu item. So what I'm going to do is just add a Z index to that. So here we have the nav close just by selecting that item. There we have the class, and what I'm going to do then is change the Z index of that item. I'm just going to make it 999, and we'll give it a background. Let's make it a gray background. Let's give it a color. Let's make it white, and then let's give it a border radius, and let's make that border radius 50 pixels, so it's round, and we'll adjust the spacing now. And then the font size, which is the size of the icon, we'll make that 30 pixels, so it's a little bit bigger. And then we'll change the line height of the font to 1. So line height is 1. Right, so there we have the icon, and now we know what spacing we're dealing with. So now I can go to padding. The padding at the top, there's a little bit of space in the top because of the font. So at the top, if I put in padding of 0, it'll have no effect. And then left and right, let's make it 10 pixels. And then the bottom, let's make it 10 pixels. And then let's go back to the top and make that 5. So there we have a kind of a rounded shape. A little bit more adjustment, we could probably get that perfectly round. So maybe that's a no, we need that padding at the bottom. And then if that's not working, then we just change it a bit on the side. And that's looking better. Yeah. So there we have the close button, and now that's working. And let's have a look at the scrolling effect. So if I turn that sideways, we want to be able to scroll the menu. At the moment, you'll see it's not scrolling. So to make it scroll, we go back to this div right at the top, which is the bottom nav wrapper active. And we want to have that scroll. So then we'll say overflow, and we want overflow Y. And we set that to scroll. So you'll see in the list here, we have the option to scroll. We'll set it to scroll. And now you'll see that it is scrolling. Right, so those are the styles that were applied to the menu. If I go over to the customize now and I go over to the additional CSS, so let's move over here to additional CSS. And if you have a look here at the commented out styles, you'll see the Z index was set to for the close menu. There I've set the styles to make it nice and round. We've set the background color, the color of the icon, the font size, the border radius, and the line height. Then we've set the overflow -y, the scrolling, and that was to the complete WP bottom menu nav wrapper when it's active. What we've also done then is had a look at the those submenu items. We've set the list style to none and the background to the darker gray, and then the individual items we set the background to be a little bit lighter. Here's where we set the border between the individual items, and then here is where we enlarge the click area, the touch area, to make a selection. And then right at the bottom here is where we selected to make sure that the menu was 100% wide. So when we look at it now, that's what you see. And when we apply these styles, so let me do that, then you'll see that that is the effect that we have. So I'm going to publish that now. And that's pretty much then how the styles were created. So if I look at that on the mobile view, then the menu scrolls up and down as we would expect, and the close button works really nicely. So that's working. Let me head over here, refresh the page, and click on the menu, and we can close. That's working fine. Rotate the screen, and yeah, we can scroll that menu up and down, which is exactly what we want. Right, so let's go back and have a look. So yeah, that's pretty much then how you can create a fairly long menu using the WP bottom plugin to create this menu structure here. As I said, you can create a different menu for this element as opposed to the main menu for your website. That is something that is up to you. You can do that. In this case, I just duplicated the two to show the scrolling effect. And to make that all work, I'm going to head back to plugins quickly, and I'll just show you once again the plugins that we used. So the plugin that we used was the menu image. So the menu image was the plugin for the icons on the menu, and the other plugin we used at the bottom was the WP bottom menu. And in the description below, I'll add the styling that was used for the menu, and I'll also include the names of the plugins that we used and links. So I hope you enjoyed that video. Thank you for watching.